Welcome to Ahead of the Game, a podcast brought to you by the Digital Marketing Institute. I'm your host, Will Francis, and today I'm talking to Mark Kilens, CEO and co-founder of Tack, a community and consultancy focused on helping companies go to market. And that is exactly what we're going to ask Mark all about today, to understand as much as possible about effective go-to-market strategies and how you can leverage them yourself. Mark, welcome to the podcast. It's really good to have you.
Yeah, thank you, Will. Nice to be here.
Yeah, no, it's good. I suppose let's set the scene. Tell me a bit about what you actually do at Tack. And you talk about People-First GTM. I'd just love to know what that is and what the value of it is.
Yeah, I mean, we help companies. We focus on software businesses. Doesn't matter really the stage, later stage seed all the way to a public SaaS business, software as a service business. Figure out how to market and sell in ways that match to how people like to buy things, prefer to buy things today. So we educate and we also help execute. And in the middle of those kind of two things, education and execution, we help a lot of businesses focus on the strategy that should be used to acquire the right customers and delight those customers. So your customers can really help you acquire new customers.
Yep.
And that's a big part of the People-First GTM idea, which is a way to think about the design of your go-to-market. The opposite of People-First is taking a company-first approach, which is what a lot of businesses, especially B2B businesses, do today. They say, well, the company has to create content, the company has to be on social media, the company has to be the voice of the brand. But no one gives a shit about a company, honestly. But people care about, especially in an age of just so much stuff coming at you, so much stuff coming at us on a daily basis, so many things to keep track of, think of. Like, what you're going to remember and feel are the actual experiences and relationships you have with other people. And those people are going to ultimately, really be the catalyst for a business to create trust. Trust is consistency over time, Will. So a brand can create trust, yeah, but is it more effective if people create the trust? That's our belief. So we help businesses figure out how to take a people-first approach to all parts of their go-to-market. I can go into as many examples and details of this if you want, but the three pillars are storytelling, relationships, like I've mentioned a couple of times now, and partnerships. Creating genuine partnerships with people, places, and brands that are going to help you, again, acquire and delight the right types of customers.
Really interesting. And just to give me a sense of that, like, what sort of state is a company normally in when they come to you? What is their sort of really kind of urgent, bleeding problem?
There's no normal. Every company has a different problem. I'd say that the big ones that companies are facing now are positioning and messaging. Most companies do not invest enough in positioning and messaging, which is one of the most important things to your go-to-market. Another big problem that they've kind of always have to be thinking of, but don't maybe spend enough time studying, analyzing, is the ideal customer profile definition and how they segment their business, which is another critical aspect of go-to-market, critical aspect of people-first go-to-market. You have to understand the who. You start with the who, the people, and what businesses they work at. Those are the two biggest ones. There's a ton of other stuff that happens from there. But if you don't have a strong strategic story, strong positioning and messaging at all levels of the altitude, when you think from brand solution to product to value creation, and you don't really know, who you're creating and who you're kind of trying to go after and why, goes back to the ideal customer profile, you're going to waste a lot of money and time. And so, we help businesses usually refine that or help kind of them build that from the get-go, from scratch. And again, really rethink, how do I do my ad strategy? My ads right now are coming from the voice of the business. Now, have your ads come from the voice of your customers, partners, people in your business, right? Like, that's a whole different way to kind of think about the way in which you would try to acquire someone, say through a LinkedIn ad strategy or even paid search, right? Like, a lot of people just don't think through the ways in which you can use the voice of your customer, the voice of subject matter experts, the voice of your employees in how you go to market.
That's interesting, isn't it? I mean, I suppose you spend a lot of time just actually nailing down the basics then of, yes, who you're trying to sell to here? What problem are you solving? And it's sort of like the value proposition, right?
It could be. I mean, it's value proposition is one way to think about it.
Mm.
There's the problem, the pain,
Yeah.
everything from like how you package and price to how you
Mm.
position. I like thinking of value prop as, multifaceted, where you can have one overall kind of value prop, but really like there's different types of value that you're probably delivering to the people you're building your product for. And depending if you're a single product or multi-product, that will then create
Yeah.
more complexity in how you think about the way in which you architect the overall story and help someone find the right path to go down so they really understand and will resonate with what you're saying so that you have the chance to build more trust over time. And trust is consistency over time, right? If you do something 5 times, but then you stop doing that, or you screw it up, you just hurt your ability to create trust, stronger trust, right? It's like, think of a chain with links. Every link in that chain is an opportunity to build trust, and every interaction with a brand is ultimately how people are going to remember and perceive the brand. So a lot of what we talk about too is how do you create a much stronger brand reputation through the people, through your people, through the people that are your employees, but also your customers, like I've said a few times now, and
Yeah.
your partners.
Yeah, that's interesting that because I was obviously looking at your career before the podcast, was trying to sort of thinking about where you've worked, the various places you've worked, and what you've done there. And I'd love to know: is there a point in time where you sort of realised that that's the bit of marketing you're most interested in, and was there sort of a trigger for that?
I mean, probably early days at HubSpot. Like, this goes back 15 years now.
Yeah,
HubSpot's an amazing company because they've built such a strategic and well thought out ecosystem. And any
yeah,
small business to big business can build an ecosystem. This goes back to the idea of partnerships. How do you partner with people? We have local businesses in my town that partner together to help them acquire and delight their customers. That's an
mm,
ecosystem, right? That's a
yeah,
form of a mini ecosystem. So you got to think of one of the most important things for a business to think about today is their distribution leverage. What leverage do you have against your competitors when it comes to acquiring new customers? If you're not
mm,
obsessed with that, you should be. Like a CEO, at least the marketing leader, but even a CEO should be obsessed with that because distribution is getting harder and harder and will continue to get harder. And being different is going to continue to get harder and harder and harder. So the idea of distribution and differentiation is really important to all of this. But one of the ways you can kind of, you could say, circumvent some of that is through the power of relationships and that trust, right?
yeah,
So you might not be super differentiated, but you've built such strong affinity with people in your broader community, broader ecosystem, that affinity, that trust, that those relationships are going to be the thing that really makes someone choose you over a competitor. So yeah, it's not easy these days. It's only getting harder.
Do you mean when you say a couple of things there? When you say partnerships, do you mean that could be with, like, say, in a local context? Obviously, a similar brand like a coffee roaster with a restaurant or a gym or something like that. But are you talking about that kind of thing? Or are you also talking about creator partnerships, opinion leader partnerships, that kind of thing?
All of it. It could be all of it. Yeah, it could be like,
Yeah,
oh yeah, we're gonna have a partnership where we do a promotion together and we try to acquire customers. It could be a co-marketing partnership where we create some content or an event together. It could be a larger
yeah,
partnership with, say like a chamber of commerce, or someone's creating a larger event, or with your local. A great example of partnerships is with local farmers markets, right?
yeah.
These businesses have created a partnership at the farmers market, and
Basically,
together, like the strength of like 20 or 30 vendors is going to be better than just one or two. So
yeah.
yeah, there's so many ways you could do it. It's again just changing the mindset a bit and thinking much more deliberately. Who are the people, the places, and the brands that I could partner with to help me grow my business?
Yes, that's a good way to think about it. The people, the places, the brands that you can partner with to sort of, because you talk about distribution. Just to clarify, because that's not distribution of product, that's the distribution of your message
It's both.
and your content and just your footprint really in general, right? Your reach.
Yeah, it's how you get how you get customers, how you acquire customers, right?
Yeah.
Like someone's not gonna become a customer unless they hear about you. So like how do you distribute your product, your message, your content, your brand, all of it, the whole thing,
Yeah.
like all, and how do you get breakthrough attention? Like that, I mean, it's getting so hard today, and a lot of company first channels are just decaying and really becoming problematic.
Well, tell me
Um,
about that because you've worked at who I often think are honestly, I don't know if I'm right in thinking this, you correct me, but they're kind of like the OG massive content marketing brand, particularly in B2B, is HubSpot. I've even heard people talk about doing a HubSpot, i.e., a huge amount of content marketing and just like literally blanketing an entire niche with your content, this sort of distribution, this huge footprint. So I'm curious, just tell me a bit about that. What's gotten harder exactly and why, do you think?
but there's more content than ever before, and it's now easier than ever to create just average crap content,
Yeah.
right? I mean, and there's less new channels, way
Yeah.
less new channels. But if you think of every person, every place, every brand as a channel, now you have a lot more channels to use.
Mm. But do you think there's some channels that have become just less effective objectively?
I think it's all dependent on the business. I mean, uh, that's hard to answer. In marketing, in most things in life, it depends, right? So, like,
Yeah.
I do think across the board, the effectiveness of a traditional search engine has gone down.
Mm.
Sure. Um, However, now the opportunity is to become very present in a new way people are searching, which is through LLMs and
Yeah.
chatbots and those types of experiences. So um, that being said, that's it's not going to cure your problems. You need to have a very well thought out, diversified, just like in an investment portfolio, set of ways to bring your product to market. And for me, it starts with the networks. Channels come second now. We've talked about networks, right? People, places, brands. Focus on your network strategy. Sure, you might use email or an ad or some other way to communicate the message
Mm.
to the right people through that network. But what are the networks that you're going to partner with and
Give me
or
an example of what
create?
you mean by that. Networks.
This is a network, DMI. I'm using you guys to get my message out right now.
Yeah.
I've partnered with you on this podcast. Pretty transactional because we don't have any other type of like strategic partnership. But this is a network, right? You have an audience. How many people listen to this podcast?
We're so big. The number is so massive. I lost count. Yeah, I think that I get what you're saying. So when you think about go to market, are you predominantly thinking obviously top of funnel first?
I mean,
I know you're thinking of all, and I know that's your answer, but are you initially like, let's attack the top of the funnel and fill that funnel?
I mean, maybe. I mean, go to market though. It's really about like price, product, pain, positioning, right? It's all these P's, right? Like
Yeah.
it's like how do you align the problem or the pain to the right person, right? With the right positioning, with the right price, with the right product. It's literally all P's, by the way. Like if anyone didn't has never picked up on that.
No.
So that's funny. But that's and then it's like, all right, great. Like once you have that kind of figured out, like you first start with problem market fit. A lot of companies don't think about problem market fit. They think about product market fit. No.
True.
Don't build a product. Think about problem market fit, which is about figuring out a minimal viable audience, an MVA, to help you understand problem market fit. From minimal viable audience building, you can then start to build a product, and then now you have a little bit of an owned audience through building an MVA to then figure out your MVP, your minimal viable product, which then helps you get to product market fit. From there, then there's go to market fit. And we're skipping ahead of like these two other ones. Like we're talking about go to market now. Go to market fit happens is like once you know you have a product that is actually delivering value, people are delighted by, people are
Yes.
going to share with other people. One of the most important markers for a product is the affinity. And are they going to talk about it? And are they going to recommend it? If they're not, even if they're using it and seeing, and they're getting decent value, I question if it's a long-term viable product. Just because it's you need word of mouth more than ever. So yeah, then you find go to market fit, and then after go to market fit, you might become hopefully big enough or you have a large enough TAM to build something like a HubSpot where you have actual, you build an actual ecosystem that's like massive on a scale basis.
That's a good piece of advice. That was really good. I hope people really kind of dwell on that thought, that this idea that, well, there's a few things that if you know if people aren't naturally recommending your product, you probably haven't nailed it yet.
Nope.
You know, and you haven't done that work of, yeah, you talk about the minimum viable audience. Like, have you identified people who you have the perfect solution for, one that they just didn't have access to before? It's so well tuned to their problem. And did you then adapt the product to really do that for them? And then when you release it to the wider population, it will be so good that people will naturally recommend it for you. And if they're not doing it, it's not ready. I think that's great. It's a really good way of thinking about it.
Yeah, a lot of people like maybe miss a step, rush a step, you know.
Because you want to go
Yeah.
big, you want to just get marketing. We're so caught up in the idea that marketing is, let's run the Facebook ads, let's do
Ugh.
the Google ads, and all that, and all this money starts sort of leaking out, and like, well, yeah, but that's my job to do marketing, and actually a lot that's not really it. Like you say, that's running before
I
you
wouldn't
walk.
do those things until you have product market fit. And
Yeah,
most people don't follow that advice, which is very problematic. Even then, I might not even do those things, depending on your price point, the competition, the potential ROI. Yeah, you definitely need brand awareness. Brand awareness is extremely important, but again, that I don't think that can come from the voice of the company. It's got to come from the voice of the people that are the evangelizers, supporters of that brand.
yeah. I mean, do you know what? I will give you my my theory on why that is, by the way, is that when you are hired as a marketer, or I've run an agency in the past, so definitely when you go in as an agency, but even if you're hired internally as a marketer, the idea of telling your boss that we need to do those things, you kind of know that's not what they want from you. They don't want the marketing person to go, do you know what? We need to do MVA, MVP, because the people everyone else is going to be like, dude, we've got the product. You're here just to run the Facebook ads and the Google ads. Like, do the marketing, pick up your megaphone, do your job. Well, that's what we would expect people to say back to us anyway. Do you know? And I think we just worry about ruffling feathers. I honestly think that's one of the main reasons that a lot of money gets wasted on marketing before the product is ready.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lack of education. I think there's a lot of, our mission is to turn marketers into go-to-market experts and professionals.
Right.
Marketers who don't understand the larger context of the business and know how to influence up, down, and across, they will not be in a good position in the coming years because of AI. They're just not going. You need to be a critical
True.
thinking, strategic marketer who understands product, finance, sales. Marketers who don't have those skill sets are going to be at a massive disadvantage over time.
Yeah, that's interesting. Um, I mean, how do you think AI is going to affect just what you know about and go-to-market strategies in general? Are you already seeing some effect, and how do you imagine it might affect like your role?
Can you be more specific? There's just like that's like I
I
don't
know.
even know where to start.
What about AI? Well, I suppose are are you imagining that there will be some massive upsides and efficiencies in specifically working out ICPs, working out MVAs, MVPs? Do you think a lot of that is where the most human parts of the job are, and actually that's going to remain so?
I mean, the data analysis will become easier, but again, it's all predicated on like, is the data accurate, good, valid, and how it's structured. So yeah, I mean, we're already seeing efficiencies across pretty much all parts of the customer lifecycle. Um, it's going to come down to creativity. Your creative intelligence, along with your IQ, is going to be so important. So the CQ and the IQ, along with the emotional intelligence, so EQ, those three types of intelligences are going to be critically important because you're not going to be asked to do like assembly line marketing anymore. And like that is
Right.
what a lot of people do today. Oh, I got to
It
build a
is.
Facebook ad, I have to do this thing, do that, study this. Like somewhere between 50 and 90% of all that stuff is just going to be done by machines.
Right.
I mean, I
Yeah.
think agencies are in big trouble. I'll say that. I think agencies are in trouble. I think marketers who don't understand the context of, again, the business, like everything I was just mentioning, are going to
Mm.
be at a disadvantage. But with all this, there's a massive opportunity to become much more valuable and learn a ton of new things. So like you could look at it as a bad thing. I think this is AI stuff is going to push us to be much more thoughtful and lean into what humans should be doing anyway. Right?
I
Like
agree.
we've been so bogged down in buying software and managing software and optimizing software. We've moved too far away from actually talking to people. This goes
Yeah.
back to people first.
Yeah. Is that part of the context in which you've come up with this idea of people first GTM and very much tied yourself to that?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, I think there's just a shift that's happening, right? Like
Hmm.
people have been creating content for a long time, right? Like, yeah, sure, HubSpot, well, really it was Google. It was really the people who created uh, the www protocol and the architecture
Yeah.
for the foundation of a kind of a website experience. But I mean, the digital content, right? Like the shift to digital content versus like the physical content that's been around for you know centuries, if you will.
Hmm.
Um, that that shift now is now basically seen itself all the way through, where a machine can create the same content. It's like so so what's the thing that humans are going to be really good at? The humans are going to be good at like leveraging the actual stories and experiences that they have that a machine cannot experience and have
Right.
yet, um, and leveraging that and getting really good at building trust. And like I think the best marketers are going to become really good salespeople.
Hmm.
I think marketing folks should start to really learn how to sell.
Interesting.
I've thought this for a long time now, and sales is an art form, right? If you're selling to another human, and sure, there's people saying, well, you're going to have AI and bots and co-pilots and assistants, help people buy things, which is probably true. But at the end of the day, I think it's going to be hard for us to probably get away from the fact that we're going to have to earn someone's respect and trust, and that is going to be done through experiences and getting to know one another. So at the end of the day, like that's the genesis for some of this people first stuff. But it's also all the stuff
Hmm.
we've talked about, the shifts in how channels are like becoming just so crowded and so inefficient, how networks are becoming so much better, how the internet has shifted from a search centric experience to a social centric experience. There's, have you ever read the book, The Clue Train Manifesto?
No, I've never
Yeah,
even
you should
heard
read
of
that
that.
book. That's a really good book that predicted pretty much everything that's happened over the last 25 years. It came out in 1999. And if you read
Right.
it, you'll see even more things that are going to happen. Um, and that's another inspiration for people first go to market. But yeah, I mean, there's
Interesting.
just, we're at this crazy inflection point. We were steady for about like 12, 13, maybe 15 years.
Yeah.
No longer is that the case. We've not
Yeah.
found the new trend line. I could say that.
No, it's true. We are at an inflection point. It's really interesting. Um, well, you talk about people. Um, it's interesting that Tack is a community, right? And you're obviously leaning in there to building a community of like-minded people who want to learn from each other and congregate around a common interest, which is the definition of a community.
Mhm.
So you're obviously pretty, I would imagine, switched on to the power of community and building trust. Just talk me through that decision, because you could just you and the people you work with obviously got great kudos and respect in the industry. You could just sell a lot of consultancy and other things to people. So why the choice to build a community? It's very interesting.
Well, you got to build an owned audience. Goes back to having an
Mm,
owned audience, and community is a type of network. And you can try to build an owned audience with an email list, but email is very transactional. How do you
mm,
take that from email to being something that's again more about the relationship and the trust building? So, I think every business needs to think about how they take their community. Because if you have just even 5 customers, you got a community. Even if you just have no customers, you just have a team, you have a community. Your employees are the community. So
right.
DMI is a community, right? This is one of the things that probably helps that community sustain and grow and hopefully get stronger. So the idea of like building your own audience and having people become members of it in a way is, yeah, I mean, something B2C has been doing for a long time, and B2B is finally catching
Mm,
on, is what we did at HubSpot. And it's one of the reasons why HubSpot is so successful is because we created value for our community members through, in HubSpot's case, a lot of educational content and a lot of certifications and programming that helped people get value and then monetize that value, which is really important. So yeah, I mean, for personal benefit. So yeah, I mean, the idea of like you only being able to deliver value through your product is a farce. And actually, I think the big shift that's happening now that we're working with a lot of companies on is like, don't create content anymore. Create really a little bit of content. You need to build free tools. You need to build more and more free tools that are, someone could copy it, it's fine. But like if your tool's valuable and it gets in front of the right people, and you have the right ways to get in front of people through your networks and partnerships and all the stuff we talked about, and then your traditional channels, that value is way better than just content that they could just ask, any machine now to figure out. Content will continue to be better, but it needs to be way more thoughtful. It has to be like this and like really about the stories and experiences. Even this, honestly, is a little bit too surface level. Like you could ask an LLM, what is People-First GTM? Tell me more about how to create partnerships. Like what?
Mate, are you saying I'd get as good as experience talking to ChatGPT?
I don't know. There's podcasts now that are pure AI. I've listened to many of them.
I don't like listening
for
to
the
them.
average person. Again, average person who's not a marketer, and I've vetted and talked to a lot of people about this. Like, yeah, it sounds good. Like,
it does.
We have a very big bias. You and I, we have a very big bias with all this, right? Because like we are in the world and we understand it a lot more. My mom, I put her down literally. Listen to this. Listen to this. Which one do you think's AI? She could not tell. No clue. I don't know what's going to happen with that. I hope that humans kind of realize that you need human connection to sustain yourself, because that's biologically how we're wired. So that's what I'm betting on. But I mean, I think the most important content is live content.
I was just going to say that I get so many people on this podcast talking about webinars, and it sounds so kind of 2005, but actually there's a reason why webinars are having a resurgence, because of what you're talking about, because it trumps a video on YouTube or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's.
I can talk to you.
It's tricky, man. But that goes back to community. Community is live async conversations, or there's typically. I mean, there's some ways you could fake it, and there's bots and stuff. But like, for most B2B business communities, like or your audience becoming a member, like it's real people.
Of course, yeah. I mean, that's really interesting about free tools. I mean, we do see that in the SaaS world, people who've got like free Chrome extensions, free tools that are a gateway drug to their main tool on the website. I mean, give me an example of someone you've worked with where you've done that kind of thing.
I mean, anyone could do it. You could take our local fishmonger. He could build a free tool now, literally. With like Replit, Cursor, a couple others, and hey, I'm gonna give you a tool that's gonna help you understand how to create thousands of amazing dishes with what I have in my store as a fishmonger.
Yeah,
he's got a pretty big social presence. He could deploy this out. He could get a ton of traffic to it, and if he wanted to then monetize that, he could start selling, shipping things online, doing oh, sure, I have a piece of blog content with the top 10 recipes. Like, that's crap content these days. Unless it's like really curated, really people first, meaning like, you're literally having, a special kind of experience with those recipes. There's a deep connection. Like it could be his like grandmother, right? Like, hey, here's my grandmother's like 5 best recipes from, whatever. And like, this is her favorite recipe for salmon, her favorite recipes for the 7 fishes. Like, that's a little bit different, but if it's like top 10 recipes, it's like, that's crap. So like how you think about the depth and thoughtfulness of your content is important, but like the free tool idea, anyone can code now. Like have you played with Cursor or Replit or anything?
Yeah. I mean, I really like Lovable.
Lovable, yeah, that's another one. Yep.
Cursor, Bolt. They are getting to the point where they are pretty much idiot proof. You're right, and you can deploy, because they're getting better at that now, aren't they? Handling the back end deployment of not just handing you a bunch of code, but actually helping you set up the database and all the other bits that you need.
Yep.
And you're absolutely right. I mean, fishdish.com, right? That fishmonger.
Yeah.
could set that up
Yeah,
and not know a thing about code and have this thing that you basically, answer a couple of questions and it suggests the perfect dish for tonight or something. But
exactly. That is going
yeah.
to be what businesses need to lean into more and more. And that's just
Mm,
creativity, right? It goes back to CQ, my whole point about creative intelligence. How can I get really creative with these tools, right? And maybe they niche down, right? There's
yeah.
millions of different things people could build now. It's going to be very cool.
It is. And again, it comes back to understanding your audience because once you understand what very small pain points, it doesn't have to be their big problem, but just a little everyday problem that they have, maybe an informational need or something like that, you can build a simple tool. It might be something simple like a real estate agent building like a mortgage calculator tool and putting it on their website, or you
Yeah.
know. Um, but are you saying that that's different because essentially with content, you're not really doing much over and above AI slop, potentially, or AI output anyway? Whereas with a tool, you're creating a more meaningful. Like, why is it better for the business that creates that?
Well, they get data. You get the data is the ultimate thing that a business needs to acquire, right? Like
True.
data and more people in its owned audience, right? Like, so more email addresses of legitimate people that fit your ICP is like number one, and number two, like more data about those people, right? So like the
Mm.
best businesses have a super strong foundation on the data side of things because that is like what AI needs.
Mm.
So again, I'm not saying content's dead. Nothing's ever dead, but like
Of course.
content is major changes have happened. So if you can take your content and your tools and then think about the data that you could use, and then the data is a way to create new content or potentially other tools, right? It's a loop. So
Yeah.
um
Yeah, I
but
get
again,
that.
like there's the biggest issue right now, and it's just becoming bigger and bigger, is there's such a massive educational gap for people in this world when it comes to all this stuff. Because schools and stuff and all that other higher education, other schools, like they're just so backwards
Mm.
looking. They don't typically adopt things fast enough, and things are changing way too fast. So like my biggest thing in life is trying to figure out how to change education to some degree, because that is ultimately going to be the true thing that helps us move more and more in the right direction. Like education is everything, and that's why I got into marketing, because marketing is such an interesting form of education if done
No,
well and done for the right reasons.
that's an interesting way of putting it. I've never really kind of thought about it like that, maybe, but yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? I mean, yeah, I think you're right. I think it is good to just remind people content isn't dead, but it's a specific kind of content. And I know this has been said a million times, but particularly every small business owner, it is now a content creator. In the, I mean, the kind of film yourself and talking about things and put them on
Yeah.
TikTok and YouTube kind of
Yeah.
creator, because that is such an easy, low barrier way to build trust, to just talk to your audience and give direct, instant value and show them how to do things, show them how you do things, show them how you've solved problems they have, basically. It's such an easy win, and people are so intimidated by that often still.
Yep.
But because of the viral effect of these networks like Instagram Reels, YouTube, TikTok, you can go viral with 12 followers. And you have that opportunity for very wide distribution. And the algorithm actually does the job for you of targeting, because the creative is the targeting nowadays. Whatever you create content about, the algorithm will find the right viewers for it, right?
Yep. Yep.
But just thinking about the stuff you're working on, I'd love to hear any examples you've got of go-to-market strategies, people who've come to you with a particular problem, something's not quite clicking, and you've helped them through that.
Examples. I mean, one could be like, hey, we're launching a new product. We need help figuring out who this, well, not who, because they should know that already, but how do we create the right messaging and positioning framework for this new product, and how do we think about its go to market, and uh, does our existing sales team sell it? Do we have a new sales team? Is it overlay? Like all of these different things, right? So that's one. Hey, like we want to create a new strategic story for our company. That's another one. We want to go from what we're saying today for a strategic story from a brand solution product standpoint, find new red threads for that story, write the story out and figure out how to activate it using a people first approach, networks first, not channels. We have other people saying, hey, I need help building an owned community. How do you build a community like what we've done with Tack Insider? And
right.
how do we do that? One of our big things is integrated revenue campaigns. How do we unite marketing and sales? I hate the term align marketing and sales. I will never say it again. Marketing and sales need to be united. And again, it goes back to the point around like marketers becoming really thoughtful at GTM and become go-to-market experts. I'm going to partner and unite how we market with how we sell so that the customer experience is that much better, but also that much more efficient for the business. That's just a massive problem. That's one of the top 3 problems I think most businesses face. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff we do. It really comes down to the who and the why. Like, why does this matter? Who are you trying to acquire? And then figuring out the how and the what is the fun part. But a lot of businesses just need education. There's just a lot, again, it goes back to education, like a lack of education at the C level. So we work mostly with C level folks. And then we do some execution with teams, but those folks in leadership positions need to understand why they have to change, how that's going to impact the bottom line, and how their P&L needs to change and look different, and how their marketing investments need to change. Because if they don't, they're going to continue to throw good money after bad outcomes. And yeah, unfortunately, Google is a huge issue, right? Their sales team and Google ad sales team, they just push more ads, do this, use PMax, don't use PMax. Stuff like that, right? Like it's just tough, right? There's a lot of misinformation and even just information that just it doesn't make sense for your business to listen to.
Are you quite skeptical about paid pay-per-click advertising in general?
Absolutely. We use it. We definitely use it and recommend it for some things. If you're leveraging that long term and a significant amount of money long term, then why? What happened to you? Where's your word of mouth? Where's your network plan? Like, it's so expensive.
It's a crutch,
so
basically.
Transactional.
Yeah. Interesting. Because it is quite a common problem, isn't it? That businesses become over-reliant on performance marketing because it's the only thing propping up the pipeline.
So bad. I question, you probably don't have the right strategy. Your product might not have product market fit anymore. You might not have a strong enough product. So the things we look at a lot, but we work with customers, is product adoption, product usage, product retention, product NPS. That's going to tell you a lot. If you're a marketer and you don't know those things, especially if you're at a director or above level, like you should ask about those things and look at those things and say, maybe that's why our marketing is struggling so much, because our product is actually the main culprit here.
Yeah, absolutely. We're kind of going to the well with a leaky bucket or something. Right. So actually, let's just unpack that or double click on that for a minute, right? You mentioned those 4 stages essentially, and we sort of hinted that you're thinking about the metrics and ROI there. What are we measuring there? Just run me through that again, and how are we measuring it?
Well, product adoption. So
there you go.
How do people adopt your product? How fast? When do they get to first time of value? Recurring usage of the product. What does their recurring usage look like? And then the retention of the product. Are they continuing to use it? Not retention of like renewal, but are they gonna like keep using it on an ongoing basis? Like, do you have a toothbrush product? You know what that is? Like a toothbrush product? Yeah. So how often do you brush your teeth?
Twice a day.
Yeah, toothbrush product. Those are the best products. If your product, you use it once a month, it could be good, could be valuable, because it's critical, or like you have to follow a law like that. So there are products that fit into that category. Don't get me wrong. I think the best products are, at a minimum, you're using them once a week, right?
Yes.
If not, daily is the best ones. So anyway, I mean, so that goes back to, again, adoption, usage, retention of the product, and then like the viralness or the word of mouth, the sentiment of the product. Like, are they going to, or how often are they recommending this, right? Like, one person could literally help you acquire dozens, if not hundreds of other customers. If you have one customer that has a big social reach and they love your product, partner with them, pay them to activate your distribution of your product. So many companies don't do that. Most don't, which is insane. Like DMI, you know which people are the biggest advocates of what you sell. Have you partnered with them to help you get their message out about how much they love DMI? Like that's like,
absolutely. You're talking
yeah.
about referrals essentially, and that referral schemes
It doesn't have to,
potentially, or
referrals is a tough word. Like that, people think, oh, it's like a transaction. It's like no, I just want you to increase the reach and resonance of the brand. And
yeah,
sure, if you want a transactional referral agreement, we could figure that out. But
it doesn't have to be that.
if you trust someone and they recommend something and you think that's applicable to you, that goes a long way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting, that, isn't it? Because I noticed that with a lot of consumer products, that you've bought the product and you've paid your money, and yet they clearly make an effort through things like email marketing or Facebook groups or communities of some sort to keep you really engaged. And I think sometimes, like, normal people out there often wonder, why did they make all that effort? Like, I've spent my money, I've bought the product. But like you say, it's really important that the product doesn't just get used once and then left to gather dust, because then you're not going to become a promoter and an advocate of the product.
Yep.
As a customer, you are worth less. Even if you're not spending money, you're worth less, aren't you? Because you've not actually gotten the value out of the product yourself.
Yeah.
So, and I think people who forget that and who think, well, they've paid us, they've bought the product, who cares what they do with it? I think you do that at your peril, don't you? Well, you got your conversions, so you move on. I mean, that is the temptation. I'm pretty sure I've probably made that mistake myself somewhere in the past.
Yeah, I mean, that's transactional thinking. That's company first thinking. It's like, oh, I did my thing, just kick the can down the road.
Yeah.
Good luck with that approach. Good luck.
No, I agree. It's not sustainable. It doesn't sustain itself. It needs to be self-sustaining. That's very interesting. Right, okay. Well, I'd like to sort of, as we're kind of near the end of our time together, Mark, I want to boil this down a little bit. So there'll be some people listening who have maybe got their own startup. They maybe work somewhere, maybe new in the job, or there's a bit of a refresh coming, and they're going to sort of think from the ground up about a go-to-market strategy. Then they may well come to you or someone else similar to you for help, wherever they are. But could you just package up the sort of main considerations? Give us a sort of a few tips, main considerations to think about when putting that together. What are the main things to either think about and or avoid and be wary of?
I mean, it goes back to what I said in the beginning. Like your ideal customer profile.
Yeah.
Who? Like, do you have a good understanding of the who, and have you validated that? Like, how many customers have you talked to? How many surveys have you done? How much research have you done to validate your ICP?
Right.
Critically important. And that takes months, at least months, if not more than months. It's an ongoing thing, by the way. You don't just do that once; you do that like on an ongoing basis. When I was an in-house marketer, I tried to talk to 3 to 5 customers every week.
Wow.
Every week I would. So I'm talking about 20 people-ish a month. Critically important. Because that's where a lot of your creativity comes from. And, you help you remove your own bias. Unless you are like the actual customer of your product, which in most cases is not the fact. No. It's not true. You need to get deep into the mind of your customers, which then goes back to messaging and positioning. Like if you have not looked at your messaging and positioning in the last 30 days, go look at it and make sure it's still valid and it resonates and it's differentiated from your competition and it resonates with that who. You should do that minimum once a quarter. Yeah, at least once a quarter. If you haven't asked sales in 30 days, hey, how's everything working right now? Like in terms of what we're saying, why we're saying it, how we're saying it. You got to look into that. What
objections people have, what reasons people have for not buying.
Absolutely. Like I would talk to sales daily at HubSpot, at Drift. Like almost every day I would talk to someone on sales or CS, customer success. So
interesting.
It's really just like those two things. Like the third thing would be like the network over channels. Don't focus on channels, focus on networks. People, places, brands. I can't, if you've not mapped out all of the people, places, and brands that DMI could and are partnering with, DMI should do that right now. Like, yeah, just step one is like building kind of your ecosystem or network map out. understanding what is the potential size of that people, place, or brand. And place could also be like an event, right? That happens either online or in person. But so like map all that out and then think about like, where should I and how should we be working, building relationships with these different entities or people to help us get our product out to the right audience. That's it.
Yes, I believe DMI is partnering with HubSpot actually.
Nice.
And it's partnered with similar kind of organizations. And you're right, it's a really good way to look at it. I mean, it does tear the rule book up a bit. I mean, I know it might not sound massively radical or feel massively radical to you, but to a lot of people in the way we talk marketing, it is quite radical. It's good information, it's really good advice, I think. Before you go, thinking about your career trajectory. Always interested in that here because our listeners are on their career path. What would you say to yourself at the beginning of your career based on what you know now?
I don't know, nothing different, I don't think. Yeah, I'm a ferocious learner. I watch almost no TV. I read and listen, and I implement things that I read and listen and try. One of my personal mottos is go fast, take chances. Another one is never settle. I just have a mindset that allows me to try a ton of different things. I changed majors 4 times in college. I'm never satisfied. Everything could always be better. There's no perfect. So yeah, set up your own set of values. Focus on the numbers, but also the art. Like have a good balance there. But also like follow your heart. At the end of the day, like everyone is different, so follow your heart, and that helps you figure out what to learn about at the end of the day. But if you're not learning, I think your happiness will be less. Think about when you're young, 0 to 18. You're learning all the time about so many different things, and like that's a big reason why you're happy. But then you get to a point and you don't learn as much, and you get into these like the status quo. It's very scary. It sucks you in. You get into these routines. Break away from that shit. Get out of that stuff. And be a little bit more adventurous. That's what I recommend to people. And again, like use that advice as it relates to like what you're passionate about. Find your passion. Find what you love to do. Maybe that takes some time to figure that out because you have to explore and like learn and find like what is your kind of true calling, true belief. But if you can figure that out and do that, and then align like kind of your learning and the ways in which you maybe create wealth for yourself, that's the ultimate thing, right? For most people.
No, it is. It's funny, isn't it? Because, when you think about back to when you were 18, you think, I've got to have this stuff figured out by the time I'm 24, because then I'll be really old. And then when you get to our age, you realize lots of people actually never figure it out. And some people don't figure it out till they're much older, and it's okay,
Well, I mean, that's all. Yeah, it's just relative, right? It's the theory of relativity at the end of the day, right there.
It is.
Yeah.
Look, I see our time is up. I've learned a lot. I feel like the time whizzed by. There's a lot more I'd love to chat to you about, and maybe we'll get a chance to sometime again soon. But Mark, thank you so much for your time. It's been really interesting.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Will. Good conversation. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. One more question for you. Where can people find and connect with you online?
You could go to LinkedIn and tackgtm.com. Tack Insider is the other community site that we have, tackinsider.com. But yeah, just find me on LinkedIn.
Great stuff. Thanks a lot, Mark.
Thank you.